Are you kidding me? You've got to be kidding me.
If I were kidding, you'd know it.
This can't be true. It's outrageous.
Even I can't believe it.
How is this even possible? Start at the beginning.
Well, when I went into them, that was a surprise all by itself. I mean, when was the last time we saw Cassie? And she was with Ralph, who of course is married to
Sheila.
So their canoodling was a bit of a shocker.
Were they kissing and canoodling or what?
They were up to something, and in the park of all places.
On a bench? Under a tree? What?
On a blanket in the grass. At first I had no idea, because it was just this undulating, which was hot. But then the guy came out for air, and I'm like, holy shit, that's Ralph. So I shouted out, hey Ralph, is that you? He looked up, and he froze, and then he quickly covered up Cassie with a blanket.
Nude in the park? Come on.
Disrobed, messy hair, discombobulated. I mean, I know Cassie's single now, but what the hell does she see in Ralph?
Didn't Sheila have a thing with Cassie's ex, Bob?
Bob? No, Sheila didn't have a thing with Bob. Ralph had a thing with Bob. And now Cassie is having a thing with Ralph. They would have saved some time if all three just had a thing together.
So why would she be having a thing with Ralph since Ralph's the one who broke up her marriage to Bob?
Beats me. Curiosity?
Huh. You had a thing with Bob, and I'm trying to forgive you for that.
But I'm not why Bob and Cassie broke up.
They broke up because when Sheila had a thing with Cassie, Bob found out and moved to Toronto.
And Cassie and Sheila was a revenge thing for Bob and Ralph.
And Bob moving to Toronto was a good thing because you and he had to stop having your thing.
Which I had ended before then, which you are conveniently forgetting right now.
At least I never had a thing with Cassie or Sheila or Bob or Ralph.
Yeah, but you did have that thing with Frank.
Well, you were going at it with Bob.
And we're trying to forgive each other. Thank goodness.
It was so long ago.
It wasn't that long ago.
A flight of fancy.
Okay, a transgression, like sex in the park.
Lust without love. But what about Cassie and Ralph?
So I go over to them with Cassie all covered up and Ralph doing that blinking thing he does.
Oh, that drives me freaking crazy.
And I said, hey, what a great day for sex in the park, which they did not think was very funny. And then Cassie was kind of sour on the whole thing when she said, do you mind? And I said, oh, you want your privacy. So what the hell are you doing under a blanket in the park? And Ralph said, we couldn't get a room anywhere, so would you please leave us alone? So I said, fine, I get it. I'll see you around. And then I turned and walked away.
Yeah, and a huff, I bet. You wanted to join them. Hey, what were you doing in that park anyway?
I like that park, mainly because nobody goes there. I was out for a stroll. You and I were having a tough morning, and I needed some air.
If you weren't such a putz, we wouldn't have been fighting.
You know, only you call me a putz. Bob never called me a putz. Did you call Frank a putz?
Let's not start with Frank, okay? We'll only start fighting again.
So you're going to tell Sheila?
Huh. That's not my place. You tell her.
I am not a big Sheila fan, particularly after her thing with Cassie, which Ralph still does not know about, by the way.
How do you know that?
Bob never told anyone why he moved to Toronto, even though we knew it was about Cassie and Sheila.
And because of you and Bob.
And Bob and Ralph and you and Frank.
What's Frank got to do with this?
Frank likes Sheila, who only wanted Cassie, and would have had a thing with Sheila if he didn't start having a thing with you.
And how do you know that?
He told me when I took him out for drinks to talk about you.
You did not.
I told him I'd appreciate it if he would break things off with you. Bob and I were over by then, and I wanted you back. So I said to Frank, listen, if you don't stop seeing my wife, I'm going to start seeing yours. He didn't like that one bit. But then, after a few more drinks, he said, okay. And then, get this. Then he said he wanted to know if he could have a thing with me.
You broke us up? Bastard!
I guess if he couldn't have a thing with you anymore, he wanted to have a thing with somebody. And what's so wrong with me anyway?
So you broke us up only so you could start having a thing with him? You are a putz!
My understanding was that you were just passing time with Frank while I was passing time with Bob. We were trying to forgive each other, and it was time for us to get back on track.
What you've been trying to do.
With some success, I might add.
But this whole Cassie and Ralph sighting.
Opens up a can of worms. So, whatever happened to Mary Lou?
Mary Lou who?
Frank's wife. Come on.
They were talking about splitting up.
Yeah, because of you and Frank.
No, it was the thing he was having with Cassie, which was the final straw.
Cassie and Frank? No way.
Which happened after your drinks with Frank, and explains a lot, actually. Because after Mary Lou left Frank, she had a thing with Ralph, which totally pissed Sheila off and led her to hooking up with Cassie, who is still mad about Bob and Ralph, but is getting her revenge on Sheila for breaking up with her by having sex in the park with the man who broke up her marriage. Fucking Ralph!
You're saying all this is about Mary Lou and you had nothing to do with it?
And it's because of you and Bob, and he's moved to Toronto.
No, it's because you broke Frank and Mary Lou up.
That was Cassie!
Maybe we should just all move to Toronto.
So you could start seeing Bob again?
No, I don't want to start seeing Bob again. But if we're being honest, we have stayed in touch. A little.
What?
A few letters. Have you stayed in touch with Frank?
Not on your life. Not after he dumped me for Cassie.
Well, I'm glad to see you draw the line somewhere.
Unlike you.
Oh no, just like you. A few letters don't count. Besides, Bob is all the way in Toronto.
I hear they have some very nice parks in Toronto.
Oh, he says they do. But even a nice secluded park isn't enough to get me to Toronto.
Maybe we should be talking about us right now.
Which is all we have been doing.
Instead of Cassie and Ralph.
Oh. Or probably still in the park.
Having sex.
Unless I got a room by now.
Which is highly doubtful.
Hey, how would you like to go for a walk with me? Stretch your legs, get a little air.
You've got to be kidding me.
Bring a blanket.
You want to have sex in the park.
And what's so wrong with that anyway?